After a long history of economic globalization, today's world is seen as a global village. Countries are linked with one another to a degree never seen before. However, lately the United States and some of its Western allies have been clamoring for the idea of de-risking from China, an ostensibly more moderate term as compared with the previous decoupling policy. So why did Western politicians tout de-risking? Is the policy in any way realistic? And what are the risks for de-risking? To unravel the massive uncertainties associated with such wording, we've talked to observers from various countries to get their thoughts. The US and the West insist on de-risking from China. So what's your take on it?
De-risking is essentially a strategy. As much as heads of states and policymakers will try to sugarcoat it, it is a move towards de-globalization. It is a perspective that is about protectionism. They don't want to see China becoming more influential.
I think that's basically true, that the de-linking is just a way of talking about decoupling without being drastic about it, and focusing on the areas of high technology. Well, they're aiming at restricting the rapid development of China and its emergence as a major force on the world stage.
America has taken an adversarial position with China. China hasn't done the same with America, but America has with China. They're obviously aiming to stymie or restrict the growth of China. One is they don't want China to be the #1 economy. It's competition. The second one is a threat. China is not a threat to the United States, not in any way, shape or form. But they see it as a threat. They feel it as a threat.
I think that the Americans have found it easier to explain away the advances that China has made by demonizing China. And whether one talks about decoupling, de-risking, the United States is trying to find out why China has advanced faster than the United States. And they have a tendency to blame the other person. And once you start blaming the other person, you're beginning to move away from reality. Once you move away from the realistic analysis, then you're in trouble.
In this era of globalization, do you think in any way de-risking is possible?
The idea that we can isolate China, it's unrealistic.
I think it's probably not going to succeed.
I think de-risking is the wrong term, because you only need de-risking if there's a risk. And I don't see, to me, China is not a risk, it's an opportunity.
Well, what are the risks of de-risking?
The risk of de-risking now is the risk of cutting off pretty much the BRICS, BRI, SCO. They're cutting off a massive amount of global trade for themselves.
What we have to recognize is that if we decouple, de-risk, separate ourselves from China and Asia, is that we will be the ones that lose out. That Asia will have the highest amount of innovation and development. It will have the highest rises in economic development, and we in Europe and America will be cut off from it. It's not a good policy.
I think it's a policy which is doomed to failure and will lead only to serious consequences, both for the recipient as well as the perpetrator of these measures, because it will decrease productivity, it'll decrease production, make things more expensive, increase inflation, and all the nasty things that we're worried about today will be a result of that policy.